ABC yanks Jimmy Kimmel's show indefinitely after threat from Trump's FCC chair. Disney's ABC is taking Jimmy Kimmel's late night talk show off the air indefinitely amid a controversy over his recent comments about Charlie Kirk's suspected killer. Jimmy Kimmel Live will be preempted indefinitely, an ABC spokesperson said, declining to share any further details. A representative for Kimmel did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The stunning decision came just a few hours after the Trump administration official responsible for licensing ABC's local stations publicly pressured the company to punish Kimmel. Said Trump administration official, for those who do not know, is FCC Chair Brendan Carr. Brendan Carr defended this move made by ABC and said this about it, in case you have not actually seen it. Brendan Carr joined Sean Hannity on Fox News last night, saying broadcast networks like ABC operate with a license that has a, quote, unique obligation to operate in the public interest, end quote. Unlike cable channels like CNN, broadcasters are different than any other form of communication, pointing to affiliate groups like Nexstar and Sinclair that announced they would no longer carry Jimmy Kimmel Live. He argued they acted appropriately, saying they were, quote, standing up to serve the interests of their community. Said Carr, over the years, the FCC walked away from enforcing that public interest obligation. I don't think we're better off as a country for it. All right. I don't want to get too far into the weeds here. I'm just going to say that in 2019, Carr had said that this about censorship, quote, should the government censor speech it doesn't like? Of course not. The FCC does not have a roving mandate to police speech in the name of public interest. So now he's defending this. In charge of the FCC, Trump appointee, blah, blah, blah. Again, you can do all sorts of rabbit hole digging on that one. I don't think it's censorship to fire Jimmy Kimmel, essentially, which I imagine is about to happen. It sure seems, though, like a lot of people are starting to ask for that. And I do think it's a little hypocritical, just given what the left was getting slammed for during the Biden administration, because it was happening to a degree. And now when you have stuff like this that I just laid out, the left has enough dots to connect all of this and make a pretty compelling backstory about how Jimmy Kimmel is a martyr for free speech. Much more of one than they tried to frame Stephen Colbert as, right? This is the video that led to the joke that was said on Jimmy Kimmel's show, in case you haven't seen it. It came from an interview that President Trump did on the White House, in front of the White House, being asked about Charlie Kirk's assassination.
How are you holding up over the last 3.5?
If you couldn't hear that, he's asked, how are you holding up over the last couple of days after what happened to Kirk?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty. It'll be an absolutely magnificent structure. And I just see all the trucks. We just started. So it'll get done very nicely, and it'll be one of the best anywhere in the world, actually.
What a wild way to answer that question. Left or right? You got asked about Charlie Kirk. How are you holding up? What? To me, someone with a dark sense of humor, that is funny. That by itself, it is funny. So, of course, someone who leans left is going to see that. They're going to pounce on it, and they're going to try to make a joke out of it. So, they set this video up on Jimmy Kimmel's show like this. Let me load the video really quickly here. Just make sure that we got it in front. Here is how Jimmy Kimmel, in his monologue, set up playing that clip of Trump just completely, I don't know what the fuck happened, just getting ADD, talking about the White House ballroom. Here's Jimmy Kimmel.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
And then he gets to the clip of President Trump. Do you want to watch that part again one more time? I didn't hear a joke before. There's a sarcastic setup to that video. I mean, it's going to work for some people. Some people are going to chuckle at that, right? Not everyone, obviously. I think what everyone is focusing on specifically in those comments, and this was highlighted by KENS5 in San Antonio, which is owned by Tegna. It's this part specifically that the FCC, Sinclair, who owns all of these TV affiliates everywhere, highlighted as the reason to move on from Kimmel. I'm going to show it to you really quickly.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
That specific part. So, I mean, there's been so much digging about what this kid's ideology was. And as I said a little bit earlier, like I'm so tired of everyone diving through it. You should be too. It's been a lot, right? And I mean, I'm sure we're going to find out more and more and more in the days to come. Maybe people should have waited to suggest, hey, this shooter was a conservative. It was interesting how it went, right? At first, oh, it must have been a trans person. And then it was, after a couple of details came out, oh, he's a groyper. He's one of Nick Fuentes' people. And then now you see, oh, well, maybe his ideology had changed. It's almost as if black and white is not how the world operates. Who would have thought? Maybe he was someone who was conservative at one point, but for whatever reason is now moving towards the left, which I think happens to all of us over the courses of our lives. No? So, no real joke with the setup there. Might have been factually wrong along the way. I'll say this again, and I'd say this to a lot of people who are weighing in on this. It's okay to wait for the facts. God forbid we use a little Newhouse School of Public Communications insight here, but it's okay to wait for the facts and to keep waiting for all the facts when talking about a huge news story, even if it is comedy, especially when you're on national broadcast TV. But I say all that to eventually say, was that specific clip, which it seems like is the clip that Sinclair is going to use to show to the FCC, who it seems like they have a interesting relationship with, is this the kind of clip to merit the cancellation of a show? The left thinks no. They think this is extreme censorship. I saw someone frame it as, this is the most straightforward attack on free speech from state actors I've ever seen in my life. The right is saying this is the whataboutism. Well, how did the left handle censorship during COVID-19, right? Like, weren't government employees talking with Facebook during that? How do they talk about when Tucker Carlson ended up getting fired by Fox? And the whataboutism is tiresome. I really wish we could just have a conversation about like what's happening in the present, this specific conversation. But like that's how political conversations on the internet go. No one actually listens to each other. Everyone wants to be right. It would be nice if we're all a little bit more open-minded, blah, blah, blah. My original thoughts, just to go back to what that clip was highlighting, is that this firing of Jimmy Kimmel is probably more about money than anything else. I wrote this on X last night. Given these late night shows are super expensive and get low ratings, I bet ABC was just waiting for something that could give them a legal reason to get out of paying Jimmy Kimmel, especially after seeing what CBS did with Colbert, not buying the censorship angle that's being pushed. But you are hearing from the FCC. You will hear from Sinclair in just a moment. To bring it back to Colbert, Colbert was losing, apparently, with that show, $40 million a year, despite being the top rated of all the late night TV shows. Jimmy Kimmel was probably also losing ABC and Disney a lot of money. And there's no denying that ABC and Disney probably has lots of conversations with these companies that own TV affiliates across the land, right? They're probably having conversations. Also, there's a couple of different television companies, Nexstar, Tegna, right? I think it's Tegna, are trying to merge behind the scenes. Let me make sure that I got that right. Nexstar merging Tegna. Okay. A month ago, yeah, Nexstar's trying to merge with Tegna, but apparently that's illegal because you can't own too many as one broadcast company, too many TV stations. But the head of the FCC, Brendan Carr, had said a little bit earlier this year that he's open to changing the limit on stations a company can own. And maybe that allows for a merger to happen between Tegna and Nexstar. And to go back to what we were talking about with that story that I was reading just about moving him off of the air, ABC took Kimmel off the air because a lot of affiliates wanted to remove him and were going to just not play him. More from Brendan Carr from the FCC. He had said on a podcast that individually licensed stations need to step up and get rid of Kimmel. Maybe he's also helping pave way for this merger. There's money behind all this shit generally. I think that's more about the money than it is about anything. But I want to read one last thing that was posted. This is... I really don't have any other way to say it. This is one of the most... You know what? I'm going to let Chris Broussard say this word so I don't get canceled like he did one time on First Things First.
Is the man retarded? Let me apologize for using that word. Oh. I have my first cousin. We just put him to... He died a few months ago.
Very eloquently said, Chris Broussard. Very eloquently said. This was a Chris Broussarded move by Sinclair, because Sinclair, the broadcast company that is, I think, most pushing for Kimmel to go off the air, which might be because Kimmel once posted a video of all of the TV stations owned by Sinclair saying the exact same script about how like certain media are not giving you the news. Sinclair posted this. This is soft. This is gay. This is the lamest thing I've seen in quite some time. There's no other way to look at this. This is just a pathetically written thing. You've won the battle. Kimmel is out. You think ABC is going to keep him? No, ABC's thrilled that they now have a reason to move on from him and stop hemorrhaging money. They're fine with this. They were waiting for something like this to go down so that they could do what CBS is eventually going to do with Colbert. I know it's not officially happening right now, but it will happen eventually, you know? Like it's not, is it happening at some point next year? So there's some more final shows. Anyway, This is the post written by Sinclair. It's just lame. Sinclair says Kimmel's suspension is not enough, calls on FCC and ABC to take additional action. They wrote this in the third person, which is, I think, also lame. Sinclair's ABC stations will air a special in remembrance of Charlie Kirk during Jimmy Kimmel Live, the Friday time slot. Sinclair, the nation's largest ABC affiliate group, objects to recent comments made by Mr. Kimmel concerning the assassination of Charlie Kirk. As discussed with ABC earlier today, Sinclair decided to indefinitely preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live beginning tonight. Following these discussions, ABC suspended production of Jimmy Kimmel Live. Mr. Kimmel's remarks were inappropriate and deeply insensitive at a critical moment for our country. He suggested the shooter was conservative. Factually wrong, perhaps, just given what we are learning. But I don't think anyone can definitively prove that. More from Jason Smith, the vice chairman of Sinclair. We believe broadcasters have a responsibility to educate and elevate respectful, constructive dialogue in our communities. We appreciate FCC Chair Carr's remarks today, Brendan Carr, and this incident highlights the critical need for the FCC to take immediately regulatory action to address control held over local broadcasters by the big national networks. Sinclair's ABC stations will air a special in remembrance of Charlie Kirk this Friday. You already said it. The special will also air across all Sinclair stations this weekend. In addition, Sinclair is offering the special to all ABC affiliates across the country. Sinclair will not lift the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live on our stations until formal discussions are held with ABC regarding the network's commitment to professionalism and accountability. Sinclair will also call upon Mr. Kimmel to issue a direct apology to the Kirk family. Furthermore, Sinclair asks Mr. Kimmel to make a meaningful personal donation to the Kirk family and Turning Point USA. Regardless of ABC's plans for the future of the program, Sinclair intends not to return Jimmy Kimmel Live to our air until we are confident that appropriate steps have been taken to uphold the standards expected of a national broadcast platform. What's the meme? I ain't reading all of that. Sorry for your loss, or congrats, though. That's what it is, right? But it's also just incredibly soft, and it gives the people who want to make Jimmy Kimmel into a martyr, that want to make Stephen Colbert into a martyr, all of the ammunition that they need. So this is, I think, going to backfire. I think I know where Sinclair leans. And I hate that the conversation that's taking place right now is about censorship and free speech, and I think it is an overreaction to characterize this as what it's being characterized. The specific quote that I will read one more time, the most straightforward attack on free speech from state actors I've ever seen in my life. I don't think it's that. I think that certain conservative owners of broadcast affiliates decided, hey, we're not going to air this anymore. And ABC's like, oh, awesome. Now we don't have to pay him anymore. And perhaps there were some conversations happening before, like, hey, let's just wait for the next time that Kimmel says something. Because let's be honest, like, Kimmel's been leaning rather left on a lot of those shows. Broadcast TV's dying. The FCC and Sinclair right here, like, they're just making that death happen a little more quickly. I love jumping on broadcast TV from time to time. I think I'm awesome on TV. But since the FCC and these companies own these over-the-air signals, and they get to determine what is and wasn't allowed to be said on these channels, that kind of censorship, okay, I guess it exists, but this is just going to continue to speed up its death among young people who already aren't watching this. You know? They're already moving along. It is bullshit the government can determine what can and can't be broadcasted, but the internet, it's fine, generally. Obviously, there are some exceptions with some of the companies that post things. We found a lot about that during the pandemic and all that stuff. But I don't think this is really the censorship it's being portrayed on. Oh, wow, broadcast TV is censoring something? Like, there's so many ways around it. You know, Jimmy Kimmel could probably do something else after this, and since he's now being portrayed as a martyr, and get this, he's probably going to become bigger for it. So that statement from Sinclair, and I guess what's happening, well, I do not think it's an attack on free speech. I do think it is something that, you know, in the pendulum, who's winning, the left or the right? I think it's going to give the left a little more wind in their sails. And I'm going to wrap up with this little quote. This is what I'm more concerned about. I am more concerned about Pam Bondi saying things like this. Because this is more concerning, I think, when it comes to free speech.
The anti-Semitism, what's been happening at college campuses around this country is disgusting, it's despicable, and we've been fighting that. We've been fighting these universities left and right, and we're not going to stop. There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle. I mean, look what happened. Think about Josh Shapiro. What happened to Governor Shapiro? I talked to Josh multiple times. Democrat governor, Jewish. They firebombed his house while his wife and children were sleeping upstairs. It's a miracle. Nothing worse happened to, it's a miracle that nothing happened to Josh and he and his family are safe. They're traumatized, but that's what's happened in this world, and we are going to fight every step of the way to show that you will face the most severe consequences if you come after someone and you target someone for their political views or for any reason at all.
That's an attack on free speech. We're going to target people for hate speech. Weren't months ago we saying, no, that's not how the Constitution works? I got a little copy of the Constitution in front of me. I always have it in front of me. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, prohibiting the free exercise of or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. First Amendment. Can't do that. Can't. I know a lot of people on the right are mad about a lot of things that are being said, but I don't think Charlie Kirk would want free speech to be abridged the way that it seems like Pam Bondi is potentially going to use it as a reason to do exactly that.